Hello, 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 everybody. How is everybody doing today? Okay, we're good. I don't have to, I'm not gonna press play. I'll deal with my setup on Facebook after. So welcome to our Heal the Unicorn podcast. It has been a couple of weeks, right? 2 weeks we've been off, yeah. So I'm officially moved into this new house, this new office. Maybe I'll show you the view of the surroundings afterwards. But there's nothing pretty to see here. And it's only been a week since we've been here. So today we wanted to discuss the good girl syndrome. This is something that many girls, women are living with and are not fully aware of it. And this is the biggest reason why they find themselves feeling unworthy, unloved, unappreciated, sad, depressed, and overwhelmed as well. Because all of these things, they do connect back to us, to who we are. And part of who we are is a good girl. I'm a very good girl. I don't like to get in trouble. And even if I also used to work in the bank. So banks were always like black and white. There's not very much gray in between. So you do something, there's consequences for it. When you're a child, you do something, there's consequences for it. And the world, I'm very tired, so some of my words might be coming out sounding a little bit different than normal. It's like a new accent that I have when I'm tired. So bear with my accent. But the world teaches us how to be a good girl and what a good girl is about. Our parents did a great job teaching us that as well. And it's not a bad thing. It really is not a bad thing being a good girl. It's a great thing. That means that you're really in tune with your inner self and your feelings and emotions. So it's a very good thing that you are a good girl. Because bad girls do bad things, but then again, bad girls do bad things that we think might be bad, but they're not bad. Anyways, it's just a matter of finding that balance for yourself and what kind of a good girl do you actually want to be and what that means to you. That's what it's all about. We're not here to tell you that you got to turn around and be a bad girl now. It's not about that. It's about you choosing what kind of a good girl do you want to be and why. What does it look like? What does that feel like? Why do you want it? Right? What's working? What's not? They're really like taking stock of everything that you are doing that is good. One of the so let's talk about energy levels, the 7 energy levels. Bethany, you are pretty fluent in these 7 energy levels at this point. So what energy level would you say that a good girl is most often residing in or at, and why?
I would have to say a 4 for most, but for me, a 4 and a 5. Because at a 4 and a 5, you're caregiving, you're seeing opportunities and things. But then it also comes to me like energy level 6 and 7. So I really want to say all the higher vibrations.
Yeah, but see, I'll interrupt you there because we're talking about what you're talking about is a healed good girls.
Okay.
Right? Because when a healed good girl that is aware that she's a good girl, what she's doing and how she's doing, she's very self-aware. And therefore, she's at level 4, she's caregiving, right, to herself and to others. But if it came to a choice, herself or others, she will put others first. That's what indicates that you are level 4 energy. And level 5 is when you are healed, because level 5 and level 3 are very similar in a sense that in level 3, which is a rationalizer, you will rationalize to make sense of a situation, whereas at level 5 the rationalization is not there. You just see opportunity. So something happens, that's what it is. That's it. Like, you don't need to interpret it or explain it to yourself, that's level 3. So level 4, right head on the nail. And I know why you're talking about level 5 and above, because both you and I are good girls who are healed or healing. I believe most of us are healing. And then when we're healed, we're, it's a different place. But here we're talking more about the good girls that are wanting to heal and are more in a different energy level where there's still conflict internally. Because when there's no more conflict internal, that is a healed good girl that knows her boundaries and is not afraid to set them, not afraid to speak up for herself and sees opportunity in everything. And she has found, for the most part, the balance between, everything that she does in her life. Right. So now, the good girl that is not healed and wants to heal. So what would be the other energy level or levels that she would often be found at?
Probably at more than a 3. No, 3 and a 4. Yeah. Because level 1 and 2, you're so like, you're in that victim state. But at the same time, level 2 is like when you're fighting. So like you're fighting to be what you want. I'm gonna go with 3, because like I feel like for the good girl, you had to have some like advancement in level energy in the levels, because you're not in that down place of like, oh, poor me, like victim. And you're not like totally like angry, but there might be some anger in it because you're not finding that self-love and like that confidence quite yet. It might be there, but you're building it. So I would say a 3, 4 probably.
Yeah, you're right. What would you say? So when we are being a good girl, when we are helping others, when we're putting somebody else first, and it goes, level 3 is part of level 4, figuring out what's in it for us as well and what's in it for them and why we're doing it and making sense of it, even if we don't fully agree on what we are doing and helping, because often we will do things that we don't want to do and put somebody else completely first and go against our better judgment, because there's a lot of resistance that we feel. So what happens, or what level would you say a good girl often goes to when she feels that lack of appreciation for a sacrifice? It almost feels like you sacrifice everything to do this thing for you because you wanted me to, and then there's no appreciation after that. So what level would she go to and why?
I would say level 1, because you're not feeling that appreciation. So you're like, well, like you're questioning yourself, you're doubting yourself. Am I enough? Like, what's going on? I put my all into this and I'm not feeling appreciated and I'm not feeling heard and seen and loved. But you could always use that to push yourself back up on the energy levels. But with the stage we're talking about, that's when I feel like that, that's when you get that down state.
Yeah. And here's the triangle that forms during this internal struggle. You're at level 4, you're giving and giving and giving. Okay. And then level 3, you might be prior to giving, you rationalize and you see, like I was saying before, so you might start at level 3. You rationalize of why you want to help that person, and you find different reasons why it's going to, benefit you and how it's going to benefit you, and how maybe you perhaps might get closer to this individual as well. Often these unhealed good girls, they will sacrifice their own time, their own, their own money as well to help somebody else out. And then what happens is afterwards, when there is no appreciation or not, or I don't want to say not enough, but at the same time, it is not enough appreciation, that it's so minor that it's not even noticeable, that you don't even feel that. Because some people will say, oh, thank you so much. But you feel like that thank you is not really a thank you, or they're doing something else. So for example, one of the things I've recently, was talking about with one of the women that I met was how she was helping out at her mother-in-law's house. And then afterwards, there were things she was organizing and decluttering and cleaning out on the house, right? And how there were things in the house that they were going through, the family was going through, and saying, who should we give this to? And they decided they were going to give it to this person, to this person, to this person, to this person, to this person's kid, to that person's kid, and not a word about her, the only one person who was working there for the entire week for free, physically doing all these things. So how would that make that individual feel? And she was also doing it to get closer to them, because she wants to feel like she's part of the family. And in the end, none of that happened. So of course, then the individual goes into level one, which is the victim. What about me? I'm the one, and nothing wrong with that, because this is exactly what pretty much any of us would react, or how we would react to something or respond to something. You're putting so much work and effort, and in the end, you get nothing and you're completely ignored and you're not even invited to any events. Of course, you're going to feel like, what am I? The ugly duckling, what about me? What do I get mine? Right? And the only way out of that, what would you say, Bethany? I mean, there's not one way out.
Right.
There's many ways out, but
for me, because I was there, man, a few years ago, before I came to finding my authentic self, before I went into self-care, I was that type of person, that good girl, where I'd give, and then I would rationalize things. And sometimes it would go to anger if I didn't, since I wasn't heard, I'd be like, what about me? And getting angry. And then it goes to that one. So being there and living through that and working through it and growing through it, I would have to say the thing that really helped me get out of that was self-care and self-love, loving myself, giving to myself, and finding the tools and to work through things, getting a life coach. Like when I was blessed to have you be my life coach for a little while there. That was huge personal growth and development, helped me get out of that, because I was able to finally see the bigger picture. I was tunnel visioned in the small thing. I didn't have any confidence. And now, I like to call myself a magical warrior unicorn, because I am on fire and I got this, and I know I got this. And now, and I still have my times where I'll go down to level one, but like I was mentioning earlier, I know how to bring myself up with my tools and medicines that I've learned, so I don't stay there long. I find that, and sometimes I'll go out into nature and any kind of self-care. I like to do the thing where you go like this with your hands to release the energy, or if I want to dance, put on a song real quick and just dance, or do a quick yoga flow, go outside and walk on the grass barefoot. Playing with my son, having quality time with my family, having quality time with myself, and journaling and singing as my son is right now.
He's telling you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so all these things helped me get out of that place and helped upgrade my good girl to where I wanted it to be, to the healed. And because I'm still healing, there's still stuff I'm working through, stuff I'm uncovering, but now I have those tools and medicines. So it's just when those times come up, it's like that lesson, that growth that I'm like, yes, here's another place I can work on and be the best version of myself. Those little golden nuggets or silver lining, whatever you want to call them. But so that's a gratitude. Ooh, that's a big one too. Gratitude was huge. Getting into a gratitude practice. And another thing I guess that comes to mind is routines. Getting a solid routine, having that AM routine, having that PM routine, your daily routine, setting the schedules, have order and structure. That helped as well, along with commitment and consistency. I could go on. There's so many different things, but even just starting with one was huge. Journaling, doing the self-care and self-love was where I started, and taking the time to question and be more open-minded and open-hearted as well.
Yeah. So what I really heard you say, I'll apply it in the energy levels. Level 4, the caregiver. Give it to yourself first before anybody else. So putting yourself first, caring for yourself first, making sure that your cup is full, that you're in a good place. And if you want to say no, you say no. And a reminder that no is a full sentence. So which means you do not have to go into explanation. You do not have to do anything and try this power move. Okay. Say no. And you can politely, with a smile, walk away without saying anything else. And I know some of you are listening are probably like, oh my God, I cannot do that. No. Try it. You might like it. Right. And it's not in a mean and a rude way. It's in the way somebody asks you something. And at this point, maybe they've asked you enough times and you already said no. And then you can walk away, right, without having to explain anything. So using level 4 for yourself, being a caregiver to yourself and putting yourself first before somebody else. And the reason for that is because if you are operating an optimal state, if you feel great, if you had enough rest, think of a day. You all have had this day where you had enough rest, you ate well, you had enough water, you avoided caffeine. I'm sorry, but you avoided caffeine. You went out in nature and you just felt great the whole entire day. Your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit, you felt great. Okay. How much can you help someone in that state? A lot, like a lot, right? You can give so much at that state because what's really happening is your cup is overflowing. You're feeling great and you're feeling proud and you're feeling confident, you're feeling brave, you're feeling inspired, you're feeling motivated. You feel like you just climbed Mount Everest and you can give a lot from top of Mount Everest. Okay. Now think about the day where you woke up and you felt like crap. You had aches and pains. You ate crap. You didn't drink enough water. You had coffee all day past probably 3 p.m. So you couldn't even go to sleep properly. You just feel like tired and exhausted. No coffee is helping. Why? It's because of the internal world that is happening, the turmoil that you're going through, stress you may be dealing with, anxiety, pressures, external pressures, internal pressures that you put on yourself. So there's a lot happening. How much can you help someone from that state? Because that energy transfers as well. You go and you spend time with your best friend, she's gonna feel your shit and you're gonna exchange a bunch of shit in between, right? So that's why everyone that I work with, Bethany was no different. Level 4, you apply level 4 to yourself first, and then you're able to put everybody else before you. Okay, and that is how you can avoid going into level 1 as much as you did before. You can't fully avoid going there. We all do. throughout the day. It's a roller coaster. We're not at just one level throughout the day. We're all over the place. And we are always going to be healing. We're always going to have something that we are working through, that we are overcoming, something new that we're learning, somebody new we're meeting. There's always going to be something new in our life that is going to test us. That's what we were all familiar with. Why is life testing me? Why are these things always happening to me? That's level one. But then again, it also depends how you say it. Why are these things always happen to me? I hate it. This is such a horrible, shitty world. That's level two, right? So you can get angry about things, and neither one or level two, they're not bad or good, but they are energy drainers. And level three is also an energy drainer, because it takes energy to work through something inside or outside, to rationalize and come to that decision or that conclusion or to that place. So good girl is also people pleasing. Like, she is a master people pleaser, and I'm sorry to say, is often taken advantage of. Hands down, always taken advantage of. And in the family, there usually is one person who is, like, out of the children, who is a people pleaser as well. And that would be the individual that will always going back and helping their parents. Right? And again, it's not a good or a bad thing, but that needs to be equally spread out among every family member. It should not fall on one. Often I hear stories like a parent gets sick and one of the kids disappears, basically. Once can't help, always busy, always working, always something. But if they cared enough and if it was somebody else, they would find the time. And then the other child is always there, always helping, feeling like they're responsible, that they have to do it, that they're good, and my parents did this for me. And that is not fair, because the parents spent equal amount time and effort and energy raising both kids. So the return should be equal. It shouldn't be one over the other. So what do you do in situations like that? Like, Bethany, what would you do in a situation like that?
Well, for one, I did come from a situation like that. When I was younger, my parents came to me for a lot of things. I was always taking care of my brothers. My older brother didn't really do all that. He was more playing video games, which at the time, it is what it is. But, coming from that, I had to take a step back and really just be me and find myself. And then I noticed it started to become an equal thing between me and all my brothers, instead of it just being on me, and really just realizing that it's not on me. I don't have to have that thought process. It doesn't need to be there anymore. It's not necessary. It's that caregiving. When you're caregiving too much and you're overthinking, oh, well, what if I stop and they don't love me anymore? Or, what if something happens because I'm not doing this? And I had to also take a step back and be, okay, this is my parents' responsibility. It's not my responsibility to parent my brothers and to be that person. So I had to really just step back and kind of let them take it. And I honestly was doing it until I moved here to Michigan. So I want to say I'm going on 6 years of living here. Maybe, is it 6 or is it 7? It's coming on that. And when I moved here is finally when I was able to let it go and to realize what was going on when I was a teenager and young adult. Mm-hmm. And then that's when like, well, my brothers were forced to step it up. You know, they had to. I couldn't just be the only one that everyone relied on for things anymore. And I didn't realize the drain it had on me back then. And to see it now, it's just really, I'm grateful for it because I've seen both sides now. I know what it felt to be like that. So now I can feel how it feels to be this way, where I am just, you know what, we all have our own human experience, and they're just dealing with theirs and I'm dealing with mine. Or not dealing, but, you know, I'm living in mine and they're living in theirs. And, you know, there's, yeah, there's just.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you've had this experience.
Yeah.
And that you're able to speak from firsthand experience. And what I heard you say is that you chose yourself, and also that you basically did not give them a choice. That you said, it's like, I've done enough. I'm not the only one that's responsible for these things. All of you guys are more than capable. This is what I'm going to continue doing, a little part, and then the rest, sorry, I can't. Boundaries set and walk away. No choice. What happens when you choose yourself and give others no choice but to come and help? They will figure it out and they will find a way. Yep. If you really, really, really want something, you will figure out and you will find a way how to get it done. Okay. And even if you really don't want to do something and your family needs you to do something and you are partially responsible and you have no choice, that you can't just walk away. If it's one child, you can't really do anything. But if it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you got to be spread out equally, right? How many days of the week? Start there.
Yeah.
And the other thing I also wanted to mention is how do I even start it? I try to say things in the nicest way possible without offending people. But if I do offend someone right now, just giving you a heads up. But here's the thing. When somebody asks you for help, you also having gone through, the pressure myself, I utilize what I've learned while I was in that journey. And when somebody asks you for help, friend, family member, I want you to evaluate what it is that they're actually asking you to do and if they're capable of doing it themselves. Because if they can do it themselves and they're more than capable and it's going to actually benefit them, then I want you to figure out how you can get them to do it on their own without you doing it for them. I'll give an example. Let's talk about my in-laws. Okay. If they're watching here, if they're watching, great. If not, or if you're watching, sorry, but I'll give an example. Cutting the grass or cutting the grass, summertime. This is something that they can do on their own. This is something that they can hire someone to do. And this is something that one of their sons can come and do for them. Now, they're getting of age and there's aches and pains and can't walk properly and these things. But me being the coach that I am and me understanding the human psychology and the human body and how that if you stop working, your body will stop working. If you continue to move, your body will continue to move. Your body will adjust. And that just because you are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old does not mean that you have to live as the age that you are. I've met many people who were in their 80s, in their 70s, in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they were physically active. They were still cutting their grass. They were still cleaning their lawn of snow. They were still doing gardening. They were still walking their dogs. They were still doing these things. And they they were not acting as if they were their age, right? And that's why I want you to ask yourself and evaluate that task or that action that somebody's asking you to do, like a kid as well. A kid will, all of us, we'd rather somebody else comes in and does something for us so we can sit down and do absolutely nothing. But sitting down and doing absolutely nothing is only going to quicken the decomposition part of our bodies. We're slowly going to start decomposing faster by sitting still. Okay, studies have been done on that. That's why when you have a desk job, you gotta get up and you gotta move every 15 minutes, 15, 1-5. And for a couple of minutes at least. That's why you go and take a break, you stretch, go to the bathroom, do something. Don't just sit still, because the body starts to decompose, your muscles weaken. So that's why it's important when it comes to our parents to help them, but not help them in the way that we're taking opportunities away from them for growth. Because growth comes in different shapes and forms. It comes in muscle growth, it comes in, regaining function of your body. That's why I wanted to mention this part. Just because you want to be a good girl, just because I want to be a good girl does not mean I'm going to go and do all these things for people that I know that they're more than capable of doing. That helping is great, but knowing when and what. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I actually, an example myself, just this last year, my parents had to find a new place to live, to move to. And with the house that they had, I helped them find it. I got it for them. I took it onto my responsibility to find them a place. But me being 2,600 miles away from my parents, well, I couldn't. There was nothing I could do. I could help them find something here, sure. But they didn't really want to uproot their life that way and come. I mean, sure, I would love them to come to Michigan. But, it's their journey. It's their life. They don't want to, and that's okay. But I had to really sit down and evaluate, because that came up for me, was like, oh my gosh, well, in the past, I just went and helped them. I found them a place to move to, and they lived there for 10 years. And that started to come in with this. But then I realized, because all the work I've done, that this was part of their lesson. Like you're saying, I couldn't help anymore, because if, let's say, they would have found a place 10 years ago instead of me, they maybe would have learned something from then and would able to bring it here. But instead I learned it because I did it. And so I knew what to do. I knew and they learned how, with this new journey they learned themselves, which in the past, I think I took that away from them by being too, oh no, I got this,
Helpful, being a good girl.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Thinking that's what I needed to do. But in all reality, I just needed to be there, love them, support them, let them know, hey, we're here for you.
Yeah.
And I did, like, my poems, they came in handy. It really did help them. And so I helped them in the way that was expanding for both of us. Because I believe that they did learn a lot from finding that new place. They did it all by themselves.
There you go. And that shows that they were more than capable of doing it the first time around.
Exactly. It was really inspiring. Yeah. Helped inspire me.
My mother-in-law, while we were buying and selling the houses, she mentioned that, oh, I want to move. I'd love to move, but I don't know how to do all these things. My response was, you can learn. I can help you to learn, but I cannot do it for you because it takes a lot of time, and my time is valuable, right? So I cannot look for a house, but I can help you in understanding how to do that, how to look for a house, how to find it, how to, then you'll have to go and drive and do things. I can't do that for you. And then I know on top of it, then all the packing and all the moving and all that stuff, that's not something that I can help with it, but at the same time, my time is also valuable, right? time is money. And I can spend my time doing other things that will help my business grow and my pocket grow instead of doing that. Because there are many other people out there that will probably do that. I'm sure there are companies you can hire and they will pack everything for you. Moving companies, they actually do that. They pack everything for you. So if you don't want, if you don't want to do it yourself, you can pay someone to do it. Then the response would be, if this wasn't the response, this wasn't the conversation that we were having afterwards. It was just, the beginning, what I said, I can help you to learn, I can help you to learn how to do all that. But if the response was, I can't afford it, because this is the response that every single being usually responds with, whether outwardly or inside our minds, that we can't afford it. My response would be, how can you not afford it? Right? If you don't want to do it yourself, if you'd rather do something else, then why not pay someone to do it for you? Right? Is this a skill that you want to learn to do on your own? For me, yes. Packing, yeah. So I learned the first time we moved, and the second time we moved, and this was the third time, right? And I've learned this skill. We also moved from Russia. That was another skill where you have nothing but the things in your back. But then my response as, the ex-banker as well, is then you figure out how the money from you moving from this place, moving to this place, that there is enough exchange where you have more in your pocket and then you can actually afford it. Right? So there are ways around that as well. At the end of the day, we are here to help each other to grow and become a better person, but we're not going to be able to allow you to do that by doing all the work for you.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of like the thought process that I have in my mind. Like when the kids come and they would love for me to do all their homework, to do everything. And I can't, right? One is in grade 6 or 7. I don't even know what grades they are in. When they don't go to a physical class, I don't see the papers. It's kind of hard to remember. One is in grade 3, the other one is in grade 7, I believe. So she has one more year. But if I do it for them now, then I'll have to continue to do it. And then later on, it'll be harder for them to learn, like with your parents. I'm sure if they did it the first time around on their own, the second time would have been much easier because they already had that experience under their belt. But because you did it for them, you got to learn. You got to benefit from that. So it'll be easier for you. But for them, it's like the older you get, the more experience you have. Sometimes it can be harder for you to start learning a new skill that you avoided learning previously. So that's the other, I guess, side to it. So in conclusion, Bethany, good girl syndrome. What do you, what would you say is the benefit or advantage and disadvantage of being a good girl?
Advantage, you're gonna be your authentic self. You're gonna love yourself, have that confidence. You're gonna be that best version of yourself that you want to be. Disadvantage, I don't see. For me personally, I don't see a disadvantage in it.
What about then looking at it from unhealed good girl?
Right? Well, unhealed, gosh, there's a lot of disadvantages being the unhealed, because you're going so quick to that victim state that you're not able to find the opportunities. You're going quick to that overthinking. Oh my gosh, what is going to happen here? Well, what? And you're not trusting the process. But when you're in that healed or healing good girl state part, you see that opportunity, you see that there's more to it, and you can go and expand from it. I guess the unhealed, it's more draining on you, and the other one is more expanding and growing, and you feel lighter and brighter. And the other one, you just feel small and dull and just like, well, it's the why bother? Like, being so, yeah. So I see so much advantage in being the healing and healed good girl. But there's also some advantage in the unhealed, because you're learning so much, you're growing, and you're getting all that in your tool belt, and you're learning the medicines that gets you to move forward and expand instead of staying in that victim mindset.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there are many people that would have this question. How long can someone expect to shift from unhealed to healing good girl?
Gosh, that's honestly, it's different for everyone. There's not a set time. It's really just how much do you want to grow? How much are you willing to change those old stories and habits that are bringing you down? How much are you willing to invest in yourself? Like, are you willing to do it? Like, for me, I want to say the healed, probably at the beginning of this year is more when the healed side of me came out. And I was healing, and I thought I was healed, but really I was just unraveling more and more to get to the state where I'm at. But I want to say at least 2 years for myself, maybe a little less. But I'm growing and I'm learning, and I'm still getting to that place that I want to be, because I'm always finding new things to grow and learn with. So it's up to you on how fast you want to go.
Yeah, and also your perception.
Mm-hmm.
Perception is everything, because I'm sure you can sit there and say that, well, maybe I'm not fully healed, right? And changing your perception and looking at it as this is not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that is also part of the healing. Feeling that this is not good enough, or thinking that it's not good enough, and wanting to do more and wanting to become better, but also taking the time. And this is the difference between unhealed and healing, is taking the time to identify what is the not enoughness coming from. Mm-hmm. And then, so identifying, this block, this not enoughness, and then working through it, or simply just, recognizing the silliness of the not enoughness and where it's coming from. Because quite often it's really ridiculous, and it's not even realistic. And I say that wanting you to also test this out and question yourself. Mm-hmm. And questioning yourself and questioning everything around you is something that we were born to do. And then you were taught to be a good girl, and a good girl does not ask questions. That's another thing. So at some point you stopped asking questions because you wanted to be a good girl, but part of being a good girl is continue to ask those questions, so you continue to become better and better and better and better and better at everything that you do and everything that you are. So that's why I want you, and then, the good girl unhealed, she's not going to ask questions because she doesn't even feel worthy enough, or perhaps not even aware that she needs to ask questions. Now, there's nothing wrong with asking questions. Society teaches us, the big bosses that are governing everything, they teach us, don't ask questions. This is what it is. That's it, right? Don't ask questions. Whereas that's not how we were born to be. We were born curious. We were born full of questions. That's why when kids start talking, they're not fully talking, but they're asking questions because they want to know more. And not just, this is what it is. Why? Because I told you so. That's not a response. That's not an answer. That causes them to feel like they're being bad. So elaborating, answering, and yes, they can be annoying. And I know the moment they ask questions and you respond, there'll be more and more and more. Trust me, I know. And it won't leave you alone, and it'll be all day and all night. And during the breaks and during the actual class, they come to you and asking questions. So my son is like that right now. That's why I'm speaking from experience, where it's just more and more and more questions. And then more exploration, more science experiments, more stabbing of the box. He wants to sit in the box and have air in that box so he makes holes in it. But the thing is, this is part of what it is to be human. And asking questions is the biggest part of that, because not only does it expand our minds, it allows us to create bonds with the individuals that we're asking questions, individuals that we're interacting. And if that individual happens to be yourself, you're building a bond and you're growing a bond with yourself by asking these questions. Why do I feel the way that I feel now? Why do I feel like I'm not enough right now? What is it that I'm not doing, right? And then also identifying that, questioning that thing that you're not doing. Is it really for you or for somebody else? Because we're here helping you to finally decide. Decide means to cut off from all the other possibilities. Decision, decide. You cut everything off. We're both here helping you to decide that you want to continue to be a good girl, but move towards a healing good girl. And it does take time, it does take effort, and it's not as hard as our mind is telling us it is. I really want you to question that as well, because the mind goes, oh my God, 2 years? I don't have 2 years. That's too much for me to be healing and continue to heal, that I'll never get there. You won't get there. I'm not here to tell you that you're going to wake up one day and you will be completely healed and transformed and everything is going to be perfect and there's not going to be any issues, no obstacles, nothing like that. It's not going to happen. Why? Because life is designed in the way to give us opportunities for growth. But what will happen is that your mindset will shift. Your perception will shift from, why are these things happening to me, to, oh my God, it sucks as it happened, but I see I'm going to get this and this and this and this and this out of it. Like just seeing an opportunity. That's what life is all about, is just shifting perception, shifting the way that we view things, and it does take work and effort. Bethany, 2 years, right? And it's still in progress. It's still working.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Right? Yeah, because I mean, of course, like I felt it along the way, but yeah, 2 years. It's like really like when I like opened my eyes and I was like, whoa, like I see, I'm piecing it. I guess the puzzle was more pieced together, but I was getting those pieces and I was putting it together. And yeah, along the way, it was very fulfilling. Each step, each lesson, each obstacle, each experience, it was all like fulfilling and made me feel like, ooh, yeah, I'm at that point. But then something else would come up and it'd be like, oh, okay, well, I can work on this now. And, and so it's like with like life, it's the ultimate game. And each experience and obstacle is just a level. It's the chapter in it. Yeah. It's the quest. And the end, really, it's when you die. That's the beginning, is when you're born, and it's just ongoing until you get to that point where it's time for you to leave your body, and it's time to go move on, for your energy to move on. So it's like, enjoying the journey as it's going on and trusting the process and pushing past those limits. Definitely.
Yeah. And when you mentioned game, I instantly thought this is exactly what it is. Because in the game, when you're playing the first chapter in the game, you're playing, you're getting good, you're getting better, you got the skill, I got this, great. What happens before you go to the next chapter? You're going to have a boss that you're going to have to beat based on the skills that you have just learned and acquired. that were enough for you to overcome this boss. Okay, life is the same way, and then the next one is going to be the same thing, right? You're learning things, and you're going to be given a test of all the skills that you have just acquired, and that's what it's all about. You're going to go through life. You're going to learn, and then something is going to happen, and you will have a choice to level 1, level 2 it, or level 3, and then from there move on to level 4, level 5, and eventually level 5 will just become natural. But there'll still be moments where you got to use level 3 to rationalize through and make yourself feel better over things. And then you'll be giving, like I said, a choice: go low, right? Go low or rise above. To beat the boss or to put off beating a boss for a while, right? And then the next one.
Yeah, I know we're probably coming to a close here, but real quick, I was playing games, playing Xbox games with my son, and there was this boss that was really hard. And I kept, oh man, it was making me mad. But you know what? I was going to quit. And I'm like, hold on here. There's a lesson. And what am I teaching my son if I just quit this game? Showing him it's too hard. Okay, well, I'm done. And so I ended up beating the level, and I was just like, look, and I took it as time to show him personal development. Like, look, I worked hard on it. I did it. I failed, but then I used what I learned from the failure to push me to get through and to beat it. And look, we beat it. And it was just the most exciting thing. And it was like, dang, like this is exactly how it is with your personal growth and development as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then one thing I will also add is that video games are more fun than life, but it's the same concept. And that's why so many people, especially nowadays, love video games, and many are very addicted to video games because it gives a pretty big sense of accomplishment that you've learned so much. And because it's like, instead of you going through 2 years and getting to this point in a game, you can do that in 1 day, and like it feels great. But the thing is, that's why that high does not last. That's why you go back to it more and more and more. But in life, it's such a small, it's like drip feeding your fish.
Yeah.
Or drip feeding yourself of these accomplishments. And it feels really small. It's almost like you go through the week where you feel like you didn't accomplish. For me, I went through a week and a half in this house, and I feel like I didn't accomplish much in here. But then when I pause and say, wait, how true is this really? And that's my favorite question. Write it down for yourself. How true is this really? This thought, this thing, whatever it is, how true is it really? Look around, not true at all. I've done a lot in just a week and a half. So the same thing in the 2 years. We can go through the 2 years and looking at it day by day, and how much did I do? Not much. But looking back in the 2 years, that's a shit ton of stuff. A lot of bosses you beat, a lot of lessons you've learned and overcome. And that is what life is about. And that is what a good girl would do, right? Healed, unhealed, or healing, that's what she would do. She'll continue to keep going because she knows that there's going to be a reward in the end. Sooner or later, there's going to be a reward. And here's a little cherry on top, is that the longer it takes for you to get to the reward, the bigger the reward is going to be. Guaranteed. When you're building a business, when it takes you a really long time to build a business and you don't see the reward for a really long time, when it happens, it's going to be big. It's going to be big, and it's going to feel bigger than it actually is because you waited so long, right? So that's why it's also important to remind yourself of these things, that just because it's not happening now, it's going to happen. Not today, tomorrow. I'm going to wake up tomorrow, I'm going to feel great, and that tomorrow will happen. It will come, right? It's just one step at a time, Even a little step, like I said, it might feel seemingly small, but looking back, the tiny little steps, they will be seen as bigger than they actually felt at that given point in time. And that's all, that's all, really. So
Definitely.
now, wrapping it up, you're a good girl, stay that way, choose what kind of a good girl you want to be, decide what do you need to do, what do you want to do, forget the need, what do you want to do, what do you choose to do to shift yourself to the good girl version that you want to be. If you still want to stay in the place where you're not ready to start the healing journey, absolutely fine. It will happen naturally. It will happen on its own for you. Okay. But if you're ready and it's already happening naturally for you now, because all the things that you've led up to this moment and you're ready to do the work, there's many options for you of how you can do the work. There's so much information in this video. Start applying them, doing them. You want to take it to the next step, find someone you want to work with, whether it's me, whether it's another coach, find someone you want to work with. And do not deny yourself and say that I can't afford it, I don't have the money, I don't have the time. Stop thinking and focusing on the lack and look at the bigger picture. Because this is what we do forget to look at sometimes, or actually too many times, is we focus on the here and now, but sometimes it's very beneficial to step away and say, okay, if I do this now, if I start working with Yana now, in 6 months from now, where am I going to be? How am I going to feel? What kind of person am I going to be? What am I going to be doing? Right? And I want you to really focus on the feelings. How are you going to feel 6 months from now? And use this video as an example. If you felt great after this video, after just an hour that we've been on here, how are you going to feel after having an hour in either one-on-one setting or a group setting, however you want to go about it? How are you going to feel after having an hour every single week with me or with your coach every single week for 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, however you want to do it, right? How are you going to feel after that time is done? What kind of a good girl are you going to be, right? So that's my closing thoughts. Bethany, what are your closing thoughts? You probably have a poem for us?
I do, yeah. But yeah, I loved what you were saying, and that's exactly how I feel about it too. But my poem, it is this: let gratitude dance in our beings, let compassion and understanding sing through our mind and bodies. These things help me feel joy.
Everything you were saying, it's like leading into everything that you're experiencing gratitude. Feel the gratitude. You're doing this, feel it, feeling. That's all. We are human feelings, basically. Human beings are walking around feeling, constantly absorbing other people's feelings, and we're experiencing emotion based on our feelings, right? So it's important to pause and feel the gratitude.
Yeah.
Feel the wind, feel the fire, feel the anger. If you feel angry, it is also beneficial. Don't do it for long, because I'm sure you know it's very draining, because we feel tired, like we want to take a nap after we're being angry for a long time. But anger serves a purpose. You want to feel something? Feel it. Identify what you want to feel it, embody it. Choice. That's also what I guess I'm saying, is we have a choice of how we can choose to feel. And it does come from practicing choosing. And only then we're able to, tap into how we want to feel, like this. This is something that unfortunately we weren't taught growing up. This is something that humans have strayed away from, but this is how children are still being raised in tribes. Within, you start with the breath. you learn your breath, because that is the one thing that you have from the moment you are born and the moment that you die is your breath. And if you do not know how to control it, how to manage it, how to maintain your breath, because it changes based on how you feel. And if you don't know how to understand your breath, that is where you start.
Definitely.
Okay? So that is how these kids are being raised. And they are so self-aware. They know themselves inside and out, in all areas of life. And here we're not being taught to go within. We're taught to go outside and look at everything and make sure that we're being a good girl and doing everything good and right. But the healed or healing good girl will go from within and work from within and make sure she's in the healthy place and in the place that she wants to be, and then gives and gives and gives and gives, and she can give a lot more from that state as opposed to struggling and feeling and hurting. Then it's also it seems to be piling on top and top and on top. So if you're ready to take off the baggage, the weight, then take it off and put it beside you, or better yet, put it in the fire pits. Obviously,
Yeah,
not the physical one. This is just like the imagery that we can do, but we can all do that. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
thank you.
Bethany, thank you everybody for listening and joining and rewatching the replay. And I really, really hope that you are taking notes as we go through all of this. And most importantly, you're taking the action. Because taking the notes is just one tiny part of it. The action part is the most important. Otherwise, we're just collecting information. And if we don't do anything with information, then nothing is going to change. Just because we have the information does not mean it's going to change. And all of a sudden we are the healing good girls taking the action. That is what indicates that you are taking the steps in the direction that you want to go in. Okay. You taking the knowledge is the step as well, but it's not a big enough step. It's a step and then it stops and nothing. To continue to take the steps, you got to take the actions to move yourself towards that direction that you want to go in. So that's it. So closing question, your biggest takeaway from this whole entire video. Do you have one, Bethany?
I was going to say the biggest takeaway for me is this is a huge synchronicity and a great reminder, especially me coming up on, setting my new 6-month goals or my new focus and putting a close to and celebrating the last 6 months is to just choose yourself, and that self-care and loving yourself is very important.
Yeah.
And to remember that, to explore, expand so much. It just really was a great synchronicity and a huge reminder as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And now I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody else what your biggest takeaway from this podcast today was. When we're talking about healing the good girl, heal the unicorn is all about the blocks, the struggles, the things that we go through, that we grow through, the aches and pains, everything to better ourselves. That doesn't feel so great. So thank you, everyone. I feel like somebody's coming to say
bye. Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm so grateful, and I look forward to next week.
Yes, next week. Thank you. And I will see you next week. We'll come up with a topic, and so that way we can continue to promote the topics before we actually go live. There's always so many things that we can talk about, and hearing from you guys, from our listeners and viewers, what topics do you want us to cover is very, very helpful, because this is how we came up with this topic, right? Somebody came, said, started talking about things, and it was the good girl syndrome. Let's talk about this. So here we are, sharing what it is like living as a good girl, and what it's like, you know, what it's like living as an unhealed and healing good girl. And now we have options and all the things that you can do in between. Tons of information, tons of gold in here. So take it, use it, and I want to hear how it's going for you. And thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you.
Send you so much love. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank
And until next week, bye.
you.